Hello and welcome to this webinar. In this next 20 minutes or so, we're going to take a look at how you can get children to begin coding using 2Go, 2Code and 2Logo. Then we're going to have a look at some ideas for how you can supplement the Purple Mash scheme of work and adapt it and make it suit the needs of your learners in your school. And then we're going to have a quick look at how you can see the JavaScript behind some of the code when you're doing guerrilla level activities in year 5 and 6, and encourage children to just have a simple tinker to change what's going on there by looking at text code in JavaScript. Before we can start looking at how to begin coding on a device or computer, children need to understand about what an instruction is. They're probably all familiar with the idea of instructions from home life and classroom life. So here's a set of instructions. Put a coat on, line up by the door, go outside and play, come back inside, take your coat off and sit at your place. And children will understand, possibly with a bit of discussion or possibly just straight off the bat, that each one of these instructions is a command, it's an action, it's something that's happening. And then you can go on to develop the idea that they need to come in the right order. So if, for example, we swap some of these round, like if I put come back inside after sit at your place at the end, let's just do that. So if the sequence of instructions ended up like this: put a coat on, line up by the door, go outside and play, take your coat off, sit at your place and then come back inside, the children would quickly tell you that there's something wrong with that. It's not right, they're in the wrong order. And you can do all sorts of activities with this that children will find fun and they'll laugh at, and at the same time they're understanding that the sequence of instructions is really quite important. So there's two things covered really. The idea that there's an instruction, which is a command, and that the order that these commands happen in is important. In terms of getting things to happen on a computer, the app 2Go looks like this. Now, when you first start in 2Go, you can choose different backgrounds. So say you wanted to set something for your class, you could choose a background. Perhaps I think there's some islands in here that we could go island hopping on, and if we say OK on here. So what we've got here is a simple map. You can see the boat wants to go up or down or left or right. It's itching to go, and on the right hand side here we've got a simple control pad. With this, you can get children to just simply draw arrows on the board. So if I had two up arrows and a right arrow, that would indicate going up twice and then right once, and we're on an island. So you can get children to predict, which is part of the Key Stage 1 curriculum here. You could draw two right arrows and then an up arrow and say ask the children which island are we going to end up on. And of course you'd end up on the big island here. You could say to the children, oh no, I wanted to end up on this island here, on the island in the bottom left hand corner, or I wanted to end up at the whale. How would I have to change my arrows? How would I have to change my instructions? So you could be getting the children to, to predict and to debug simply by using arrows drawn on a whiteboard and then sort of changing the destination on something like this. If you want to set things up on here as well for progression, you can move beyond just the straightforward up and down arrows and left and right by clicking the cog up here at the top, and you can choose different control pads. So we could, as well as having the direction, add the opportunity to say I want to go right 3 squares, and you'd click the right button and then the 3. Moving on from that, you can add extra directions into it as well with the diagonals here. And then the real step, I think, comes with this one here, where it's no longer about direction, it's just about forwards and backwards, but turning left and turning right. So the child here has to think about which way is the boat facing, and they have to see it from the boat's point of view. So a little bit of decentering going on there. Also, if I want to give more than one command at a time, I can click on the General tab and then click to Allow Programming and say OK. So we could have a challenge here to say something. I want you to find a way to visit all 4 islands and then end up at the lighthouse. Well, to do that, the children are going to need to give multiple instructions. So on the pads here at the bottom, we can just click here. That gives us the chance to drop 5 instructions in here. Or if I use this one, we can drop 10 instructions in here. Or by using this one, we can have up to 5 instructions repeating several times. So just as a quick example, if I wanted to go to this island, to the bottom island here, and then end up at the lighthouse, I could go backwards 2 squares. So I'm using prediction here to sort of predict where I'm going. Then I could come along here. So I'm going to need to go right 3. So to do that, I'm going to be facing up. So I need to rotate clockwise 1/4 turn. And then I'm going to go forward 3 turns. And then if I just play that to see how it works, yep, I'm on the right lines. I need to add more instructions though, because I've not ended up at the lighthouse. So what would I need to add? Now with something like this, I've changed quite a lot of the settings on here. I've changed the background, I've changed the control pad here. And if I wanted to set this as a to-do for the children, what I can do is I can just delete some of these things here and clear it up. Or I could leave some of these on here and have a start it. I've started so you finish, children. But if I just wanted to set it like this for the children, give them some instructions, maybe some differentiated tasks, all I do is up here in the top left hand corner, click on share. It'll ask me to save it. So I could just call this Islands Tour. And when I've saved it, it's going to say, okay, you want to share it. How do you want to share this? And I can set it as a to-do in the usual way. And then all of the settings, the control pads, anything I've put in here to get the children started that they need to finish on will appear in their to-do. So they won't have to do the setup that I've already done. You can do lots with to-go, predicting, debugging and so on, as I've mentioned. Have a think, is it something that you could perhaps use with some of your young children, either through the scheme of work or perhaps as some standalone activities or sequences of lessons for yourselves. The next thing that I wanted to quickly look at was to code. So once children are starting to get the idea of giving instructions and sequencing, we get them into the to code activities. And the first one is fun with fish, but I'm going to choose this one here, bubbles, just for a bit of variety. So if the children were doing this activity, you can see here we've got 4 stages to the activity. The first 2 are skill building, the third one is a debugging, and the fourth one is to be creative with what we've learned. And in these we always have a helpful video to begin with, which you can watch. But essentially what you've got here is you've got a stage. You've got an area where it all happens, and on here you can see I've got a bubble and it looks like it's underwater, doesn't it? So I'll click up here to exit design mode. It says challenge, make the bubble move up. And what we've got here is with the bubble, I drop it down. It's an object, it's a thing on the screen, and when I drop it, it shows me the different actions, the different things that the bubble can do. And in this case we want it to move up. So we've got a command here that's just saying bubble move up, and when we press play at the top, the bubble starts to move up. So we've given a command, we've made something happen on the screen here. So we're starting to think about how we can make more interesting things happen. In this case, we've got this challenge to click the bubble and make it disappear. So here we drag on our when clicked block, and it's asking us when you click what. So when we click the bubble, we want something to happen. And what happens is going to pop inside this box here, which is controlled or triggered by the click. So we want the bubble to hide. So let's click play. Bubble starts moving. It'll go off the top of the screen and then appear at the bottom. And when I click it, it ran the hide command and it hid. So we're moving on from things just happening in a sequence here. The when clicked bubble option, this gives us the opportunity to trigger events. So we've got this event of clicking the bubble and that makes the bubble hide. It doesn't just automatically happen like it was like things were going on in 2Go. So we're getting a bit more advanced here and a bit more control over what happens. Then the debugging opportunity comes here. We've got lots of bubbles moving up the screen. It says when you click a bubble, a different bubble disappears. So we click on the green, nothing's disappeared. We click on the pink and it's made the green disappear. So the children here have to have a bit of attention to detail. And what I often ask them to do here is to read it line by line. And that can involve putting a piece of paper over the screen and uncovering it one block or instruction at a time. Find that really helps children to focus, because for some children, seeing too much going on here, it's just visually confusing for them. So that they can use a piece of paper to help them focus and then change things in here. So when we click the red bubble, the blue bubble hides. No, we don't want that. We want the red bubble to hide. And then here we've got when we click the pink bubble. So you just click onto the blocks and you can edit and make things correct. So there's lots of activities like this within 2Code that you can use within the 2Code area, and it's also built on within our scheme of work as well. Let's have a look at another thing here. We've got 2Logo, and 2Logo uses the programming language Logo. It was invented back in the 1960s as an educational tool. To use this, children really need to have some idea about angles, so it's depending on maths, it's something that's probably going to come later on, and it is an introduction to text-based coding. So for example, in here, we've got different commands. So I've got forward, backwards, right, left, repeats, pick the pen up, put the pen down and change the color of the line. So if I just do something simple here like forward 5, you can see it's drawn a line that goes forward of 5. And now if I click RT for right turn 90, you can see the arrows turn to the right, and I could click I could maybe give it forward 5 again, and I've started to draw a square here. So you could, once children have got some idea of angles and shapes, you can get them to give instructions on here using text to draw simple shapes. You can, over time, build it up into procedures, and a procedure is a collection of instructions which you can do things like this with. So in this example, I've got a procedure called pentside, and all that pentside does is it does a right turn of 72 and then goes forward 5. And if I play it, it shows you here. So it's turned right 72 and gone forward 5. If I repeat that lots of times, it will draw a pentagon. So I can say in here, repeat that little collection of commands 5 times, and we press play, and you can see it's drawing a pentagon. I can continue with that and say do that 9 times, but turn right 40 in between each pentagon, and we end up with something like a nice flower, which I can run here. And if I just run that, you can see it's drawing the pentagon, and then it turns 40 and draws another pentagon here, and it's going to continue doing that. I can use the slider to speed it up a bit if I'm impatient, and I end up with a nice geometric flower design. So there's lots of structure to this, which children, you can challenge children with as they get older to see the different possibilities within it. So that's 2Logo. Next, I wanted to show you how you can supplement the Purple Mash scheme of work. Because in here, we've got the computing units overview. And these are how it's laid out in the scheme. So for year 1, we've got the units here, which you'll be familiar with if you're looking at the scheme. However, it's really important that you give some consideration to the question, how does this suit the needs of our school? Is there any way we can adapt this to maximize the benefit and maximize the learning opportunities across the curriculum? So what I'd encourage you to do as a school is to perhaps put them onto a spreadsheet like this and then just drag them around and edit them. So you can just click onto a cell here on a spreadsheet and pull this one over here. You might think that you want to do creating pictures at the end of the year in year 2. So you can drag the cells around, and maybe there's a good cross-curricular opportunity a link in history, geography, science, whatever, that creating pictures can lean on and add extra meaning to both subjects. So yeah, you can swap these things around very, very easily by dragging like this. You can also adapt the actual content of it as well. So what I've done on this example here is I've taken some units out. So for this year 1 row at the top here, we've decided that we don't want to do spreadsheets in year 1. So I've pulled that over to the end here and just grayed it out. What I've done as well is I've resequenced it. So we've got unit 1.3 here, pictograms. We thought that could fit better in the year over here, and the animated storybook might work well here. We've also created our own unit here. We thought it'd be really nice to do something on mash cams using voice recognition with talk to text with the young children, which you can do in Windows or on iPads. And we've popped that unit in here. Just moving up the school here, we've decided in year 4 and in other year groups as well to have a coding revisit. So the children are doing coding at the start of the year, but then we don't want them to forget what they've learned. So midway through the year, we've popped a lesson in here just to review what we've looked at and to set a homework from it as well. So the children are practicing those skills, a little bit more often. In year 5, we've adapted things a little bit more here. We've added a unit. We decided we'd like to do something on using Prezi, which is an online presentation tool. And we also decided that we'd like to do something on the databases unit. And we're going to adapt that and make it so that we're creating a database of different monarchs from the United Kingdom. So we're getting that to lean on a history unit that we've made. In year 6, we've taken the decision to not teach coding using 2Code and Purple Mash. We want to give the children a coding opportunity using microbits or Scratch or Python, just to give them a wider range of coding experiences before they go to secondary school, give them that opportunity to branch out. We're also choosing to teach our spreadsheets using Excel for the same reason, that children will get that wider experience of different tools. And towards the end of the year, we've decided that we're making a unit here where we're going to get the children to make movies on iPads and edit them so that they can record and present their science investigation findings. You could create all sorts of units for your school, but I just wanted to show you this as an example of how you might adapt the scheme of work to suit the needs of your setting. And finally, I just wanted to show you how you could get children to move a little bit further on and have a tinker with something called JavaScript. So this is the catcher activity, which comes up in year 5 and 6. And there's a button up here that says See Code. And if you click this, you'll see this, which is JavaScript. So actually, when you're coding with blocks, you're really, behind the blocks is some real computer code called JavaScript. And in here, you can read this with the children and just say, it looks complicated, but what do you think it's doing? Let's take a look at this these top 3 lines here. We might not understand everything, but we can get the gist of what's going on. So it says this dot on key, left key, comma function, catcher dot left. So we're getting the idea here that something to do with the left arrow key on the keyboard and the catcher going left. And then here we've got the same sort of structure, this on key, right key function, catcher dot right. We could swap these over if we wanted to, so that when we press the right key, we're going to make the catcher go left, and when we press the left key, we're going to make the catcher go right. It's a bit contrary, but we've just tinkered and edited JavaScript. And if I press play now, if I go right, the catcher goes left, and if I press the left button, it goes right. So I've changed how the program works, not by looking at blocks, but by looking at text. Other things I could do here are, these are the sounds that happen. So on a collision, anything which is avoidable, it's saying play the classic buzz once and restart. So if we change this 1 here to a 2, then I think when I crash into a wait, it played the buzzer sound. It played the buzzer sound twice instead of once. So just by having a little tinker when you've clicked the C code button here, you can be giving the children that first introduction to seeing JavaScript and to just tweaking a few little things to make some simple adjustments. So that's a couple of ideas of things that you might do to explore coding or change the children's coding experience, and I hope that you found it useful. Thanks ever so much for watching.